Have you ever noticed how the deepest people, those who truly feel the world around them, seem to be disappearing from our lives? You know, those friends who could sense when something was wrong just by the tone of your voice, who genuinely cared about the details of your life, who asked questions that actually mattered? Where did they go? If you've been noticing this growing absence of truly empathetic connections around you, it's not coincidence or your paranoia. We are witnessing a silent but devastating phenomenon, the progressive disappearance of emotionally sensitive individuals from social interaction. And the reasons behind this reveal something deeply disturbing about the kind of society we've built without realizing it. Imagine for a moment the experience of being a highly sensitive person in 2025. You wake up and immediately your brain is bombarded by notifications, demanding quick and superficial responses. Every social interaction has become a digital performance exercise where authenticity is punished and superficiality rewarded. Your attempts to create genuine connections are interpreted as excessive intensity. Your real interest in others' emotions and experiences is seen as invasive or dramatic. Your need to process experiences deeply is incompatible with the accelerated pace that modern society demands. It's no surprise that many of these people have opted for isolation as a form of self-preservation. To understand how we got to this point, we need to look back and understand what happened to our collective capacity to value emotional sensitivity. For thousands of years, human societies fundamentally depended on individuals capable of reading emotional subtleties, mediating conflicts through empathetic understanding, preserving social cohesion through deep connections. These were the healers, counselors, mediators, guardians of communities' emotional wisdom. Their sensitivity was not seen as weakness, but as an essential talent for collective survival. The transformation began gradually with industrialization, but accelerated exponentially with the digitization of human relationships. Industrial society had already begun to value efficiency over connection, productivity over contemplation, but still maintained some spaces for emotional depth. Families gathered for long conversations. Communities had rituals that honored both joy and suffering. And there was time and space for emotional processing of experiences. What we live today is fundamentally different. We have created a social environment that functions like a reverse natural selection system, where the characteristics we most need as a species are systematically discouraged and punished. Emotional sensitivity, which should be valued as an evolutionary superpower, has become a disability in a world that prioritizes speed, superficiality, and emotional resistance. Consider how our social media algorithms work. They are designed to maximize engagement through quick and intense emotional responses. Content that provokes anger, outrage, or instant desire is privileged over anything that invites deep reflection or genuine connection. A sensitive person who naturally prefers slower and more meaningful interactions find themselves at a profound disadvantage in this environment. Their reflective posts are ignored in favor of more aggressive or sensationalistic content. Their attempts at authentic engagement are lost in the noise of millions of superficial interactions. But the problem goes far beyond social media. Our entire current economic structure punishes emotional sensitivity. In the job market, characteristics such as excessive empathy, need for time to process emotionally charged information, or preference for deep collaboration over superficial competition are seen as signs of weakness. The most sensitive individuals frequently find themselves in toxic work environments where their ability to perceive and absorb others' emotions becomes a constant source of suffering. Modern education also contributes to this phenomenon. From early on, we teach children that success means competing, standing out, being faster and more assertive than others. Naturally empathetic and sensitive children quickly learn that their characteristics are inconvenient. They are labeled as too emotional, too slow, too intense. Many develop defense mechanisms that involve suppressing or hiding their natural sensitivity. The result is that we have created a society where people most capable of creating deep connections, understanding complex emotional nuances, mediating conflicts through mutual understanding, are progressively withdrawing from social interaction. They haven't completely disappeared. They have simply become invisible, creating their own small and protected communities, or opting for more solitary lives where they can preserve their emotional integrity. This withdrawal of the emotionally sensitive creates a devastating vicious cycle. The fewer empathetic people we have in active social spaces, the more hostile these spaces become to sensitivity. The more hostile they become, the more sensitive people withdraw. What remains are social environments increasingly dominated by individuals who have either lost their empathetic capacity or never fully developed it. You can observe this phenomenon in practically any contemporary social space. Corporate meetings where nobody asks how someone is really feeling. Parties where conversations never go beyond small comments about work and weather. Romantic relationships that function more like convenience partnerships than deep emotional connections. Friendships based on shared activities rather than genuine mutual understanding. The cruel irony is that we are living through an epidemic of loneliness and disconnection precisely at the moment when we most distance those who naturally possess the skills to create meaningful connections. Studies show that empathy levels among young adults have dramatically decreased in recent decades. Anxiety and depression increase exponentially. Relationships last less time and are characterized by lower emotional intimacy. This is no coincidence. Technology has amplified all these problems in ways we are still beginning to understand. Dating apps reduce human connection to swipes based on superficial appearance. Communication platforms privilege speed over depth. Recommendation algorithms keep us in bubbles that confirm our prejudices rather than exposing us to perspectives that could expand our emotional understanding. But perhaps the most disturbing aspect of this transformation is how it affects our collective capacity to deal with crises and complex challenges. Problems like climate change, social inequality, political polarization all require exactly the kind of emotional intelligence and empathetic capacity we are systematically discouraging. We need people capable of understanding multiple perspectives, building bridges between different groups, processing emotionally charged information without becoming overwhelmed. The absence of the emotionally sensitive also deprives us of an early warning system for social problems. These people are often the first to perceive when something is wrong in a group, an organization, or society as a whole. They feel tensions before they explode into open conflicts. They perceive suffering before it becomes crisis. When we silence or distance these voices, we lose our ability to anticipate and prevent problems. I want to pause for a moment to ask, do you also feel this absence of emotional depth in your daily relationships? This feeling that people around you have become less available for genuine connections, less interested in truly understanding how you are? I know it can be difficult to put into words, but many of us carry this weight in silence, believing that we are the ones demanding too much from others. If this feeling resonates with you, share your experience in the comments. It can be as simple as writing, "I miss deep conversations," when filling in with your personal experience. Your comment might be exactly what another person needs to read today to feel they are not alone in this search for authentic connection. So what can we do to reverse this trend? First, we need to recognize that emotional sensitivity is not a deficiency that needs to be corrected, but a capacity that needs to be cultivated and protected. Instead of training sensitive people to become less sensitive, we should be creating environments where this sensitivity can flourish. This means fundamentally rethinking how we structure our social, educational, and professional spaces. It means creating environments that value quality over quantity of interactions. It means implementing rituals and practices that honor the time necessary for deep emotional processing. It means developing technologies that facilitate genuine connection rather than just superficial engagement. At the individual level, each of us can begin to make different choices about how we interact with others. We can choose to ask deeper questions, listen more attentively, create safe spaces for emotional vulnerability. We can choose to value friendships based on mutual understanding over social convenience. We can choose to actively seek out those sensitive individuals who have withdrawn and demonstrate that there is still a place for them in our lives. We also need to rethink our relationship with technology. This doesn't mean completely abandoning digital platforms, but using these tools in ways that support rather than undermine deep emotional connection. It means actively seeking content that challenges us to think and feel more deeply, rather than just consuming information that confirms our existing perspectives. For organizations and institutions, this means implementing policies and practices that recognize and value emotional intelligence. It means creating work environments where empathy and sensitivity are seen as assets rather than liabilities. It means investing in training that develops emotional capacities rather than just technical skills. The future of humanity may very well depend on our ability to reverse this trend. As we face increasingly complex global challenges, we desperately need individuals capable of navigating emotional complexity, creating connections across differences, understanding the human dimensions of technical problems. But there are hopeful signs that a counter-revolution has already begun. Growing movements value mindfulness, emotional authenticity, and deep connection. New generations of entrepreneurs are creating technologies designed to facilitate rather than replace genuine human interaction. Therapists and coaches are developing methods to help people recover their natural empathetic capacity. Intentional communities are emerging where people consciously choose to prioritize relational quality over material success. Alternative schools are experimenting with curricula that honor emotional intelligence alongside academic development. Progressive workplaces are discovering that investing in employees' emotional well-being actually increases rather than decreases productivity. The critical question for all of us is, what kind of society do we want to create? One where only the emotionally most resistant survive, leaving us all more isolated and disconnected. Or one where we recognize that our capacity to feel deeply, to genuinely care, to connect authentically, are exactly the qualities that make us more human and more capable of creating a future worth living? The choice is still ours, but time is running out. Every sensitive person who withdraws from social interaction is a loss for all of us. Every relationship that becomes more superficial impoverishes us collectively. Every social environment that becomes less welcoming to emotional vulnerability makes us all less human. If these reflections have touched on something you've been feeling, know that you are not alone. There is a growing community of people who recognize the urgent need to recover our collective capacity for deep emotional connection. By joining us, you will not only find others who share your values, but also contribute to creating spaces where emotional sensitivity is celebrated rather than punished. Subscribe to continue this essential conversation about how we can build a society that honors our full human potential rather than just our capacity for superficial performance. The disappearance of the emotionally sensitive from social interaction is not inevitable. It is a consequence of choices we have made as a society and therefore can be reversed through different choices. But this requires each of us to take responsibility for creating the kind of social environment where emotional depth can flourish. The future of our shared humanity may very well depend on it.
I read in an interview that you gave The Guardian, they asked you the greatest regret of your life. And you said not being open about your sexuality earlier.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Why it's my biggest regret?
Yes.
Or why? Because I think that the pain of kind of living in denial to myself. I mean, when I say it's a regret not coming out, it's not to other people, it's to myself. And looking back, the writing was on the wall when I was like 14, 15 for sure. Like if I would be on the beach, I would definitely look at the guys, not at the girls. But I couldn't acknowledge it. Like I had a divided mind. That one part of the mind knew absolutely 100%, and the other part of the mind had absolutely no idea. And again, it was just too much to handle, I guess. But this situation of living in denial and in repression of myself, just looking back, it was a lot of painful years.
Hello, everybody. And what I want to talk to you today about is the power to shape the world and the power to shape our future, about your power as leaders and as innovators, but also about the power of the human species as a whole. And the big question we are facing is whether AI is taking away humanity's power to control our future, or perhaps AI is giving humanity more power than ever before. And also, can we even speak about humanity, about a single humanity anymore? Or perhaps humanity in the era of AI is splitting into different groups, each with a radically different future. But before we get to AI, we have to say a few words about politics. The relatively stable liberal order of the early 21st century is collapsing. Instead of a cooperative order based on universal values, global institutions, and international laws, we are entering into a super competitive, chaotic world in which only one thing matters, and this one thing is brute force. Leaders like President Trump envision the world as a collection of fortresses, with each country separated from the others by high walls. Financial walls, like tariffs, military walls, cultural walls, and physical walls. This vision may have certain advantages, but it fails to address one key problem. Walled fortresses are seldom friendly. Thousands of years of history teach us that each national fortress would probably want a bit more security, prosperity, and territory for itself at the expense of the neighbors. And in the absence of universal values, global institutions, and international laws, how would rival fortresses resolve their disputes? For millennia, the vision of the world as a collection of fortresses always led to exactly the same outcome: a never-ending cycle of wars, with powerful empires conquering their weaker neighbors and eventually fighting each other for supremacy. This is already beginning to happen all around us. Wars of conquest, which were taboo since 1945, are coming back. Russia already sustained 1 million casualties in its attempt to conquer Ukraine and re-establish the Russian Empire. The Trump administration has already expressed imperial ambitions regarding Greenland, Panama, and even Canada, and seems to support Israel's conquest of Gaza. China, too, has its eyes on overseas expansion. The collapse of the old order is frightening, but it is also, of course, an opportunity to shape a better order. And the big question is, who will be the shapers? In the old liberal order, the ideal was that all humans would be shapers. It didn't matter whether you came from the USA or Brazil, whether you're white or black, a man or a woman, straight or gay. You had equal human dignity, and therefore, in theory at least, your views and interests counted for something. Sure, this liberal ideal was never fully realized. Ideals are not reality. But the liberal world was nevertheless a huge improvement over previous historical models. In the new post-liberal chaotic world, the ideal of equal human dignity is completely and openly abandoned. instead of all humans trying to cooperate to shape a world that will be good for all humans, the current mantras are me first and might is right. A few powerful people in a handful of countries think that they have the right to shape the world for everyone. If you remember the meeting earlier this year between President Trump and President Zelensky at the White House, whenever Zelensky talked about things like justice or peace or territorial sovereignty of nations, President Trump interrupted him and said, "You don't have the cards. You don't have the cards." As we are meeting here in Sao Paulo to talk about the future of humanity, there are two questions for each of you to ponder. First, do you have any cards? Are there any cards in Sao Paulo? Or are all the cards in Washington, Beijing, and Moscow in the hands of people like Donald Trump, Elon Musk, Xi Jinping, and Vladimir Putin? The second question is perhaps even more important. Do you want to live in a world where the only thing that matters is cards? Is life ultimately just a card game with winners and losers? Now, I could have given the exact same speech that I gave now in 1939 or in 1914 or in countless other historical moments when humanity was on the brink of a major crisis. But this time, it's really different. Because as we ask ourselves, who will shape the new world of the 21st century, we need to take into account not only human shapers. For the first time in history, there are also non-human shapers on the planet, AIs. We might be quite close, maybe a few years, quite close to the moment when an algorithm would tell all humans, including Trump and Putin, you don't have the cards. As we enter the era of AI, I want to briefly explore here three questions. What is AI? What is the threat of AI? And how can all of you, business leaders, entrepreneurs, and innovators, help humanity not just survive, but also flourish in the era of AI? So let's start. What is AI? There is so much hype around this term, AI, that the term is now inaccurately applied to almost every machine, and it is becoming difficult to know what it really means. So let me be very, very clear. AI does not mean automation. AI means agency. AI is not a tool in our hands. AI is an independent agent capable of acting and learning and changing on its own. To be an AI, it is not enough for a machine to act independently, automatically. It must also have the capacity to learn and change by itself, to make decisions by itself, and to invent new ideas by itself. As a simple example, consider a coffee machine. If you press a button and the machine automatically makes you an espresso according to a pre-programmed procedure, this is not AI. The machine doesn't learn or create anything new by itself. But suppose that as you approach the machine, even before you press any button, the machine says to you, I've been monitoring you for the last few weeks. Based on everything I've learned about you, and based on your facial expression right now, I predict that you would like to have a double espresso with 1 spoon of sugar. So I've already made you such a cup. Here, take it. That's an AI. It learned something by itself and decided something by itself. And it is really AI if the following day the machine announces, I've now invented a new drink that I call Bespresso, and I think you would like it even better than espresso. So here, try it out. I made you a cup. The confusion about AI results in part from the term itself. The term AI has been invented decades ago as an acronym for artificial intelligence. But it is inaccurate to think about AI as an artificial intelligence if by artificial we mean something that is entirely designed and controlled by humans. AI is not artificial in this sense. So it's better perhaps to think about AI as an acronym for alien intelligence. Alien not in the sense that it's coming from outer space, it doesn't. Alien in the sense that this is a non-human intelligence, it's not even an organic intelligence. It operates on completely different inorganic lines. It therefore is able to make decisions and to invent ideas that would never occur to human beings or to any other organic animal. A famous example of this was given already back in 2016 when the AI AlphaGo defeated the human Go champion Lee Sedol in Seoul. This game became justly famous, not just because AlphaGo defeated the human champion. It was the way AlphaGo defeated Lee Sedol which shocked the world. Because AlphaGo, in order to win, invented new strategies for how to play the game that never occurred to any human player in thousands of years of the history of Go. Now, as long as AI invents new ways to play games or new kinds of coffee, it doesn't seem very important. But very soon, AI will invent new military strategies, new kinds of money, and even entire ideologies and religions. Consider money and finance more generally. If you recall the 2007-2008 financial crisis, you might remember that it was largely caused or started by something called CDOs, collateralized debt obligations. CDOs were financial devices invented by a handful of mathematicians and investment wizards. These financial devices were so complex that they were almost unintelligible to most humans, including politicians and regulators. And this led to an oversight failure and a global catastrophe. Now, what happens if we now allow or even encourage AIs to invent new financial devices that will be orders of magnitude more complex than CDOs and that will be utterly unintelligible to any human being? Such devices could greatly improve financial efficiency and contribute to economic growth, and they could become the bedrock of the global financial system. But what would happen to human politics when no voter or politician is able to understand and regulate finance anymore? And what happens if after a few years of unprecedented boom, the financial system suddenly busts and there isn't a single human being on earth that is able to make sense of what is happening? Now consider the implications for something like religion. Especially, let's take as an example, religions based on texts like Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. For thousands of years, Judaism granted ultimate authority not to human beings, but to texts like the Bible and the Talmud. Flesh and blood rabbis nevertheless had immense power within Jewish society for the simple reason that their holy texts could never speak for themselves. They were mute. Whenever you had a question about the text, you needed a human interpreter. Rabbis are humans who know their way around many Jewish texts, from the Bible to the latest commentaries on the Talmud. This is the source of their authority. Now, over the centuries, so many Jewish texts have been composed that not even the most learned rabbi is able to read all these texts in his or her lifetime, let alone remember everything written there. But of course, this is something that an AI can easily accomplish. AI could quickly read all the Jewish texts ever composed, remember every word in every single one of these texts, and also find patterns in the texts that have so far escaped human notice, human attention, and AI could therefore use its unprecedented scriptural understanding and knowledge to produce completely new interpretations of the Holy Word. And this, of course, is true of Christianity and Islam as well. In effect, AI can start functioning as a holy text that talks back to the faithful without any need of a human mediation. What happens to a religion of texts when the texts start talking? Now, since Judaism invests, as I said, authority in the texts, a flesh and blood rabbi cannot just ignore the scriptural arguments of an AI. And human rabbis will very soon find it very difficult to compete with AI's mastery of the Jewish canon. Even if AI is not granted formal rabbinical status, it is likely that at least some humans, including even some rabbis, would turn to an AI rabbi for scriptural guidance and inspiration. The result might be surprising new developments in very old religions or the emergence of entirely new religions. Now, these kinds of developments have enormous positive potential. They can help humanity in countless ways, from inventing new medicines to preventing catastrophic climate change. But, of course, AI also poses many threats. So let's move on to the second question of what is the threat of AI. The basic problem with AI is not that it is evil. The problem is that it is alien and therefore unpredictable and untrustworthy. At the heart of the AI race, there is a paradox of trust. Humans find it difficult to trust one another, especially as the world is becoming a collection of hostile fortresses. But the people who develop AI somehow manage to believe that we could trust the AIs. When I meet the people who lead the AI revolution, I normally ask them two questions. First, I ask them, why are you moving so fast when there are such huge risks? And the response almost everybody gives is the same. They say, we agree. We know that there are big dangers, and it would be best to proceed with more care. However, if we slow down while our competitors in the other company or in the other countries won't slow down, they will win the AI race, and the world will be dominated by the most ruthless people. We cannot trust our human competitors, so we must move as fast as possible. Then I ask the second question. Do you think you could trust the super intelligent AIs that you're developing. And the same people who just told me they can't trust the human competitors suddenly assure me that they could trust the super intelligent AIs. And this is such a paradox, because we have thousands of years of experience with human beings. We have a broad understanding of human psychology and biology, of the human craving for power, of the tricks humans use to gain power, and also of the forces that keep the human pursuit of power in check. We have also made considerable progress in finding ways to build trust between humans. 100,000 years ago, people lived in tiny bands of just a few dozen individuals and couldn't trust anybody outside their band. Today, there are nations like Brazil with hundreds of millions of citizens, and there are even bigger networks of cooperation linking all 8 billion humans on the planet. Complete strangers often grow the food we eat and invent and develop the medicines that keep us healthy. Of course, we are far from completely solving the problem of human trust, and there are still many tensions and conflicts and wars in the world, but with humans, at least we understand the challenge we are facing. In contrast, we have almost no experience with super intelligent AIs. We have just created the very first prototypes. We already know that even primitive AIs can lie, manipulate, and adopt goals and strategies that were not foreseen by their human developers. We have no idea what will happen when millions of super intelligent AIs interact with millions of humans, and it is even more difficult to predict what will happen when millions of super intelligent AIs interact with one another, creating AI societies, AI tribes. What kind of goals will they develop? What kind of tricks might they invent? True, at present, it is humans who develop the AIs, so we can try to design them in a way that will make them safe for humanity. But remember that a machine is an AI only if it is capable of learning and changing by itself, making decisions by itself, and inventing new ideas by itself. So no matter how human designs them originally, the AIs can then change in a radical and unpredictable manner. And it's a huge gamble to simply trust that these super intelligent alien intelligences will always remain our obedient servants. The humans who despair of trusting other humans, yet think they can trust these alien intelligences, may be making a very, very big mistake. Now, I know that it's sometimes hard for people to understand how AIs might escape human control. Due to the influence of science fiction, when we talk about AIs escaping our control, people tend to imagine a scenario of killer robots running in the streets, shooting people. While something like this is actually already happening in some places like Ukraine and like Gaza, this is nevertheless the wrong image. If you want to understand how AIs can escape our control, don't think about killer robots. Think about business corporations. What are corporations? Corporations like Microsoft or SpaceX or Petrobras are non-human agents. Though they don't have a body or a mind, these corporations can open bank accounts, can hire people, fire people, lobby politicians, and do many, many other things. Now, previously, this corporate agency was just a legal fiction, a fantasy of lawyers. Why? Because in practice, every decision made by Microsoft or Petrobras was actually made by some human being, not by the corporation. Every decision was made by some human executive, human shareholder, human engineer. But with AI, corporate decisions will increasingly be made by a non-human intelligence, a non-human agent. Imagine a corporation that has no human executives and no human shareholders, only AI executives and shareholders. This corporation can make billions and reshape the world. A practical question already today in 2025 is, do we want as a society to allow such things? This is a practical question. Do we as a society allow AIs to open bank accounts, to manage corporations, to trade and invest, to hire people, to lobby politicians? So let us move to the last question. How can humanity flourish in the era of AI? To survive and flourish, we need to remember two lessons from history. First, power isn't happiness. We humans have been extremely good in acquiring power, but so far we have not been very successful in translating power into happiness. That's why today we are thousands of times more powerful than in the Stone Age, but humans are not thousands of times more happy. That's also why the most powerful people in the world, like Trump and Musk and Xi and Putin, are definitely not the happiest people in the world. Secondly, to survive and flourish, we should remember also that intelligence isn't wisdom. Humans are the most intelligent animals on the planet, and at the same time, we are also the most deluded animals on the planet. No other animal can believe the kind of nonsense that humans can believe. For example, my home region of the Middle East is burning in a horrendous war, fueled in part by the most ridiculous fantasies you can imagine. Humans there, on all sides of the conflict, seriously believe that the creator of the universe commanded them to fight and kill other humans. And they also seriously believe that the creator of the universe will reward them for their violence with everlasting joy and bliss in heaven. No chimpanzee will ever believe such nonsense. But many highly intelligent humans believe it. So power isn't happiness, and intelligence isn't wisdom. AI will be more powerful and more intelligent than us. But the power of AI doesn't mean it will bring happiness, and the intelligence of AI doesn't mean that AI will be free from delusions. In fact, a super intelligence might very well be super deluded. Therefore, the big challenge for business leaders and innovators is not how to create more powerful and more intelligent technology. Rather, the challenge is how to develop the wisdom necessary to use all this power and intelligence for good purposes. How to do it? The answer is quite simple. Build more trust between humans before developing super intelligent AIs. Do you know why planet Earth is nevertheless ruled by humans and not by chimpanzees? Not because we are more intelligent than the chimpanzees. Humans rule the world because we know better than any other animal how to build trust with strangers and cooperate in very, very large numbers. We have developed this ability for thousands of years. Unfortunately, just when we need human trust more than ever before, many of our most powerful leaders are busy destroying this trust. Instead of strengthening connections between all humans, they are busy building walls between humans. If humanity is divided, AI will escape our control and will enslave or even annihilate us. On the other hand, if humanity cooperates, we can together develop AI and other technologies in a safe and responsible way. Think about AI as humanity's common child. When we educate children, we know that children learn from what we do, not from what we say. If you tell your child, don't lie, and then the child observes you lying, the child will also lie. Similarly, if you're a tech tycoon developing a super intelligent AI, and you're telling the AI, don't lie, and the AI then observes you lying, the AI will also lie. And if you tell the AI, be compassionate to people, but the AI observes you engaged in a ruthless pursuit of power, the AI will also grow up to pursue power ruthlessly without any compassion. This is why we must first solve the problem of human trust and only then develop super intelligent AI. If AI is developed in a cooperative way by compassionate and trustworthy humans, then the AI too is much more likely to grow up to be cooperative, compassionate, and trustworthy. And all of you have a role to play in that. You are leaders and innovators. Amidst the growing political chaos in the world, the business leaders and the tech innovators still have very considerable power to shape the world. So use your power to build trust between humans. Use your power to build a world which isn't just a card game between ruthless warlords. Build a world in which the dignity of everybody still counts. Thank you.
Yuval, your new book, Nexus, is about information. We normally think that information is something that informs us so we can make better decisions. But you stress in your book that information is above all used to create stories. And we humans are storytelling animals. So stories represent what you call intersubjective realities. Stories can be very powerful. They can make us hate and kill for no good reason. How is this possible in the age of reason and science?
So, reason and science give us mastery over the world, but not over ourselves. And in almost all cases in history, the people who know how to manage things get their orders from the people who know how to manage people. And the way you manage people is usually with stories. Maybe I give a concrete example so we understand what we talk about. If you take one of the biggest and most dangerous scientific enterprises of the 20th century, the Manhattan Project, the creation of the first atomic bomb. What do you need in order to create an atomic bomb? You need a critical mass of uranium or plutonium. You need enough uranium atoms bunched together. But you also need a critical mass of humans bunched together. If you're just one person, you're Einstein or you're Heisenberg or you're Oppenheimer, and you're the best physicist in the world. And you know that E equals mc squared, and you know everything about nuclear physics, but it's just you, a single person, you will never be able to produce a nuclear device. To produce a nuclear bomb, you need hundreds of thousands of people to cooperate. There are more than 100,000 people working directly on the Manhattan Project, not just the physicists and mathematicians, also the technicians and the engineers and the construction laborers and the people who made food for them and cleaned the toilets. And you need hundreds of thousands of people more to grow food for them and to mine the uranium. The uranium that was used for the bomb, part of it came from Congo. So you needed people in Congo to mine the uranium. How do you get hundreds of thousands of people to cooperate on such a project? If you just tell them E equals mc squared, it won't work. Even though it's true, it doesn't motivate people to do anything. So you need good storytellers. And this is the situation also today. I look at my region of the world, the Middle East. So the Israeli experts on nuclear energy and other weapons production, they know science, but they get their orders many times from experts in Jewish mythology. And on the other side of the border, again, you have engineers and scientists who get their orders from experts in other mythologies. So even in the age of reason and science, at least so far, ultimate power is in the hands of the myth makers and the storytellers. The big change that is happening right now and that we will discuss in the coming minutes is that there is a new myth maker in town which isn't human. For the first time in history, there is something on the planet that can tell stories and even invent new stories and is not a human being, and that is AI.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, we come to that. Let me stay with the stories in general, because we have a media specialist, a media scholar, Kaori. Media, of course, they play a central role in the circulation of information. How do you see their role in the storytelling business?
Yes, thank you very much, Franz. My name is Kaori Hayashi. I'm a media and journalism scholar at University of Tokyo and also executive vice president at this university. And I'm so honored. Thank you very much for being here and talk with you, Yuval, and and in front of such a large audience. Thank you so much. It's an honor. And speaking about the media, I think media at the moment is very much challenged right now because of this digitization change that media are. So everybody can be, for example, journalists, and everybody can be, the networks are decentralized and the media create stories, but from every corner of the society, people create their own stories. And journalism, I think, has been, so I understood, has been a self-correcting tool in democracy. As this is I think the key word of your book is the self-correcting mechanism. And journalism has been served as a self-correcting tool, and the media also creates public discourse and shape understanding of the people, especially in the democracy. But we all have to understand that media is not neutral. Any media, every media works as framing as well as agenda setting. So we have to always think that bias is inevitable, even if professional journalism we praise is so good, and we have to think about that. And corporate media has been scrutinized so much because of this digitization, and in Japan too, media are often seen as favoring powerful interests and over marginalized voices. So yeah, I think, so choosing what to report and how to report is never neutral. As when I was in New York, I saw the graffiti saying neutrality favors the oppressor. So I think that's kind of the narratives that recently prevailing in the world of journalism. So I think balancing storytelling with factual accuracy is very, very difficult, even in the world of journalism. And collaboration with experts and NGOs are, I think, in these days must at the time of the digitization, I think.
Thank you. Coming back to you, Yuval, and to the digital transformation, how does the digital transformation change the storytelling game?
The first change that we already saw, and it already changed the world completely, is in the role of editors. That, you know, when you have a lot of information, the bottleneck becomes human attention. You have all these stories competing for attention. You cannot read everything, you cannot watch everything. So what do you give attention to? And this is the role of the editor. So traditionally, say the role of an editor of a newspaper is to decide what will be on the front page of tomorrow's newspaper. You have to take into account consideration of what is true. You don't want to publish a lie on your front page. But there are many truthful stories, and you can't put all of them, so there are other considerations. What is most important? And by putting something on the front page of the newspaper, you shape the conversation of millions of people. Millions of people read it, they think about it, they talk about it. Even if they don't agree with you, you have captured their attention. And capturing people's attention is the key to power. We saw it, for instance, in the debate between Trump and Harris, that the only thing that most people remember from that debate is what Trump said about the cats and dogs. And this is power. It doesn't matter if you agree or disagree, if it's a lie or a truth. The ability to he's a PR genius. In other areas, he may not be such a genius. But in PR, definitely, he knows how to capture people's attention. And you look at the power of editors that decide what will be on the front page. In the 20th century, for instance, Lenin, before he was Soviet dictator, his one job that he had was editor of a newspaper, Iskra. Mussolini started as a journalist, then he became editor of a newspaper, I think the Il Popolo d'Italia, then he became dictator. So this was like the level of promotion, journalist, editor, dictator. Now, who are the most important editors today in the world? What are their names? They don't have names, like Mussolini or Lenin, because they are not human beings. The editors of the most important media, social media, who edits Twitter? Who edits the Facebook newsfeed? Who edits TikTok? Not human beings. Algorithms, AIs, already took over this very powerful position of deciding what will capture the attention of millions of people. And this is one of the reasons for the crisis of democracies, that democracy should be a conversation between human beings, but it's now being taken over by algorithms. And this is very, very primitive AIs. The next step, which we are already seeing the beginning of this, is for the AIs not just to edit the stories written by human beings, but to create the stories by themselves. And we have no idea what the result will be. We have thousands of years of experience with human storytelling. What happens to society when you unleash millions upon millions of super intelligent AIs capable of creating new stories? And new stories is not just, scripts for TV shows or fiction books. New stories is new religions created by AIs. It's new financial devices. The most successful story ever told is the story of money. Money is also a story, and it's the only story everybody believes. The most successful story ever created. What happens when our future financial stories will come from a non-human intelligence?
Yeah, Arisa. Arisa, you are an expert on AI governance, and I'm sure you have something to say.
Yeah, thank you very much for a very exciting talk. So my name is Arisa. I am researching on the AI governance issues. So I am really interested in what you say and how you treat AI. So you're using AI as a subject in a way. So AI kind of controls, or AI may, have some kind of disruptive effect. But I would like to raise the question whether we can consider or, treat AI as, like a humanization of AI. So my opinion, this is my opinion, but I would like to, when I talk, I kind of tend to say that it's the human being who actually behind the artificial intelligence, for now, at least. And so I agree that these algorithms are actually kind of change, well, maybe affecting our world, or maybe, the election, and or our cognitive way of thinking. The social network, social medias are actually kind of affecting our way of thinking, or maybe our life, or maybe what to learn, who to speak with. However, I think, well, as a researcher with AI governance, I think to some extent, for example, like the giant company can take some roles as a governance. For example, that is actually lead to some kind of discussion, like the Meta stated that they will stop like a fact checking. But there, but still, you can, if those kind of, fact checking, or, those kind of governance mechanisms works in better way, then we can believe that the society can be, not so much disastrous or chaotic issue, because to some extent we can control, or at least we can say there's a human behind it with the goodwill, or who wanted to take the responsibility of what their product or the services are spreading all over the world. So I was just wondering, so when you say when you humanize the AI, I also understand there is a discussion about like the agentic AI. So it's not like so what we see as an AI today is that like a ChatGPT or the Gemini, and we human beings actually create the tasks, and then we kind of do the prompt, and then let the task to do, and maybe some of the LLMs can go for the next action without our intervention. But for the agentic AI, this is the still vague concept, but it's more like AI automatically goes through the actions without intervention of the human being. So, or more like the AGI issue, the artificial more advanced, like a super AI. But I see still that is a little bit far from now. So I was just wondering, it might be a little confusing, or maybe it leads the people who hears when you talks about AI as a subject, might be a little bit, I don't know, maybe telling the frightening stories about what AI can do, or or maybe what kind of the society we will gonna be. So I was wanted to hear your intention of using the AI as a subject in present day.
Well, when I refer to AI as a subject, I only refer to agency, not to consciousness or anything like that. I don't think that AIs have consciousness, that they have feelings. They are not subject in the ethical or philosophical sense. But they are subject in the sense of having, for the moment, limited agency, down the road, potentially unlimited agency. One way to approach it is by thinking about AI and bureaucracies. That, if you think about, say, the power of a lawyer, let's imagine the most capable lawyer in Japan. As the most capable lawyer in Japan, she is a very powerful person. She knows her way around the laws of the country. She can get things done. She can pass judgments in court. But what is her power? Her power exists only within a certain bureaucratic system of laws
and government offices and so forth. If you take her and drop her in the middle of the jungle, she's powerless. Any elephant, any hyena is more powerful. But within the existing bureaucracy, she is much more powerful than all the elephants of the world put together. The same thing for AI. If you isolate AI, if you take ChatGPT and throw a smartphone with ChatGPT in the middle of the savannah, can't do anything. It has no agency in the animal sense. Okay, let's start digging in the earth and finding iron and build a robot. Can't do that. But within the existing bureaucracies, structures that humans have already created and imposed on the world, AI already has tremendous agency and power, much more than many humans, because AI is a native bureaucrat. No lawyer can remember all the laws of a country. AI can easily do that. No banker can follow all the things that are happening in the markets every moment. AI can do that. So in finance, in law, in the military, AI is getting a lot of agency. If we take a paradigmatic case from almost 10 years ago, the Rohingya massacre in Myanmar, which was to a large extent the result of propaganda spreading on social media, on Facebook, and propaganda which was deliberately spread by the Facebook algorithm with the aim of getting more engagement, causing people in Myanmar to spend more time on the platform, because this was the business model of the company. The crucial thing to understand is that no human being in Facebook headquarters had any ill will towards the Rohingya or any understanding of what was happening. They didn't even speak the language. It's not that some human being in California said, oh, I hate the Rohingya people, let's start spreading propaganda against them so that they will kill them and expel them. No, the human being told the algorithm something very simple and seemingly innocent. Increase user engagement in Myanmar. Make people more engaged, spend more time on our platform. Well, that sounds good, engagement. Then the algorithms by themselves experimented on millions of people in Myanmar and discovered by trial and error that if we show people hate-filled conspiracy theories, they become very engaged. They spend more time on the platform. If we show them a Buddhist sermon on compassion, they go to do something else. So the algorithms made a decision, let's show people more conspiracy theories, less sermons on compassion. Now, of course, it ultimately is the responsibility of human beings. You can come to the managers of Facebook and tell them, what have you done? Why have you released such a powerful engine without proper supervision, fact-checking, and so forth? So ultimate responsibility still is with the humans. But to understand what happened in Myanmar, and this was almost 10 years ago, 2016, 2017, we need to take into account the fact that there is a new agent that is able, it couldn't work like that with radio. If you just distribute radio sets to people, the radio can't tell you what to listen to. Radio is not an editor. But Facebook platform is not like radio. It has the capacity to make decisions, oh, let's show people this content and not that content.
So governance, the responsibility of people. So the only thing we can regulate at the moment is people. Can we make the people responsible or liable? Liability is one instrument to sort of incentivize people to do good things, to avoid bad things. Is that an approach to governance? Would that be to both of you? Arisa, you want to go first? You.
I just wanted to ask about the state of the dominance of algorithm. Does that come from, I read your book and you mentioned about the so to say, the autocracy of algorithms. But does that come from the kind of the prevailing capitalism of the, my keyword in this, my takeaway from your books is the self-correcting mechanism. And democracy has its own, has had, or is having a self-correcting mechanism. But I just wonder whether capitalism has a self-correcting mechanism, whether they say, okay, we have, well, sometimes people used to believe that through the competitions, how do you say, the market will solve
the invisible hand.
Yes,
the invisible
hands and so on. But in the latter half of the 20th century, it seems it doesn't work. But on the other hand, people try to correct this type of capitalism. The government tries to correct these capitalistic principles. How do you see the relationship between the capitalism and this algorithmic dominance? If we are to correct this type of dominance, can we approach this from the economic principles, or do you think that only the humans, somehow the governance can solve the problem? I mean, both are kind of overlapping, but I just wonder if you can.
It relates to the liability question.
Yes, I mean, I wouldn't rely just on market forces to correct it. I mean, capitalism does have its own self-correcting mechanisms through the market, and ultimately, when it works well, at the heart of capitalism, there is actually a very positive idea of a win-win economy and win-win situation. For most of history, people sometimes confuse capitalism with greed. But greed is just, part of human nature, and long before there was capitalism, there was greed, there was slavery, there was exploitation. These things didn't come out of capitalism. And we saw in the recent centuries that communists can be as greedy and exploitative as capitalists. So I wouldn't place all the blame on capitalism. When it works well, the key idea of capitalism is that the economic pie can grow so everybody can enjoy more at the same time. For most of history, the economic thinking, or correct me if I'm wrong, was that the economy is a pie of a limited size. If I have more, it means you have less. So it was bad to be rich. And the rich had to contribute and do charity to compensate for that. The key idea of capitalism was that if you invest the profits that you gain in increasing production, the entire economic pie can grow and everybody can have more at the same time. So this win-win thinking, which is now being challenged, for instance, by the Trump administration, the whole idea of tariffs, is going exactly against the key principle of this win-win capitalism. But of course, there are market failures. If you only give a company or an algorithm the goal of increasing production, which in social media means increasing engagement, produce more time spent on the platform, this will not regulate itself. And here we need intervention of government to regulate it. And the two most obvious regulations, first of all, companies should be liable for the actions of their algorithms. The companies constantly try to confuse people by saying this is against free speech. The government wants us to censor our users. And this is, I think, deliberate obfuscation, deliberate confusion. The issue is not what the users are doing. The issue is what the algorithms of the company are doing. If somebody publishes a hate-filled conspiracy theory, I write now some conspiracy theory and publish it on Facebook, At least my personal opinion is that except in very extreme circumstances, it should not be censored and the person should not be punished. The problem is not with the human being who published this hate-filled post. The problem is that the Facebook algorithm or the TikTok algorithm now takes this post and deliberately shows it to millions of other people because it assumes that it will increase engagement. This is the problem. The problem is the action of the algorithm, and this is not protected by free speech because algorithms don't have free speech. So you cannot protect the Facebook or the Twitter algorithm by saying, oh, but it has free speech. It doesn't. The other key regulation that I think every government should pass as quickly as possible is to ban fake people. The same way that ages ago they banned fake money. If you counterfeit money, you go to jail. You should have as much protection for humans as for money. So you can't counterfeit humans. What does it mean to counterfeit humans? It means for an AI or a bot to pretend to be a human being. Previously, there was no way to do that. Now the technology is there. And if we want to keep democracies, a conversation between human beings, and not being taken over by bots, so again, very simple and clear law that it is forbidden for AIs to pretend to be human beings. And if companies allow it or do it, they should be punished. AIs are welcome to talk with us in various situations, provided they disclose that they are AIs.
Thank you. I think because we're talking today also about education and science, let's move on maybe to the question of education. How do you think that the education should sort of challenge the digital transformation or the problems you just mentioned of AI? Is there something in the system, education system, that needs to change in order to be better prepared for these challenges?
Somebody wants to know?
We'll come to the Vice President of Todai later.
I think one key principle is to understand that for the first time in history, we don't know how the world would look like in even 10 years. So our responsibility as educators, it's heavier, more difficult than any time before. Of course, you can never predict political events. You could never predict an epidemic or an earthquake. But a lot of other things you could predict. For most of history, the basic economic structure didn't change very quickly. The skills that people needed didn't change very quickly. So if we go back, say, 500 years or 1,000 years to Japan in the feudal era, people know what skills to teach the young generation. They need to know how to read and write. They need to know how to ride a horse. They need to know how to plant rice. They need to know how to bake. When we look to the future, we have no idea what skills will be needed. Even in 10 or 20 years, people say, okay, let's teach the young generation how to code. This is the age of AI, of computers. Everybody needs to code. Maybe in 10 years, AI does all the coding. You don't need human coders. So it's very difficult to know. And therefore, the most important thing that education should give young people is a flexible mind and the ability to keep changing and learning throughout their lives, because this is the one thing we are certain about, is that the pace of change will not slow down. It is likely to just accelerate. So the big question is, how do you how do you educate a mind to be so flexible that it can keep learning and changing, not just at age 20, but also 30 and 40 and 60 and 70, to stay in line with the huge changes in the world. The other thing is that so much of education is based on language and on the intellect, especially intellect in the form of language skills. And language, I also include mathematical language, it's not just words. And this was always, you know, kind of the human superpower, our command of language. And all our big institutions were based on language, whether it's banks or whether it's temples and religions, they are based on language. And now we have something on the planet that mastered language better than us. And we still haven't come to terms with it. Again, in the financial system, AI will very soon be far more capable than any human banker to read and write the language of finance. The same thing when I look at religions. So if I take Judaism as an example, Judaism is a religion that sanctifies texts, not humans. At the heart of the religion, there is a text which is supposed to be infallible, a superhuman intelligence. Now, the problem of Judaism for the last 2,000 years with the text is that the text was silent. People had many questions. How to interpret this difficult passage? How to relate this passage in the Bible to this real-life situation? And the text remained silent. So you needed experts in texts, the rabbis, who got their authority from the text and were kind of the mouth of the text. And over 2,000 years, they composed more and more and more texts about the text. Now, for the first time, you have something that can understand, you have a text that can talk back to you. No Jewish rabbi is able to read and remember all the texts of Judaism. There are too many texts. AI can. So in a competition, who understands Judaism better, a human rabbi or an AI? An AI is bound to win. What does a religion of the text do when suddenly it encounters a text that can talk back? If you have a question, you don't need the rabbi. You can just ask the text, and it talks to you. The same problem is in Christianity, in Islam, in Hinduism, in many religions. So this all relates to the question of education. In a world where we are no longer the masters of language, what is the most important thing in education? Just keep teaching language. It's a losing strategy. So we need to connect and to explore to the other aspects of the human being, which are not words, which are not language. If people ask, so what is still unique to humans that AI doesn't have, and we refer to it in the beginning, it's consciousness, it's feelings, it's the body. So, and I think as in the age of AI, an education that leaves out the body and that leaves out feelings and consciousness is a very problem. This could have been good enough, at least economically, say in the 20th century or the 19th century. But in the 21st century, we have to connect in education, in university, much more to the level of feeling and body, because this is still what we have and what the AIs don't.
That's very interesting. Arisa, you want to respond directly? I also want to hear what Kaori thinks.
I just wanted to, go first before the vice president, actually goes for the, what's the Todai, the University of Tokyo is actually working on. I don't know. So I just, I agree with, what you said about, it's, we can, what on the education, what we wanted to, what we can do for the next generation is to look into the other than text. But on the other hand, I myself is already still a bit tired to, catch up, So you said about, we need some kind of, flexible mind and to, to keep changing, but not everybody can, catch up to, or maybe, if you wanted to accept this, diverse viewpoints, it might be, worthwhile to talk about, maybe it's, not everybody can, catch up to all the technology, and maybe it may becoming very tiring world, or maybe, very rapidly changing, very excited. But in your word, you say exciting is not, always the good term. So that is, the point. I think it's, we also think about when we, educate, student or the other, maybe, or, reskilling people. We need to think about it, or each of the person's, speed or the paces, their mind. And so maybe it's becoming more important to talk, or to think about, one person's ability or, the skills much more than, we used to have, we educate, one teachers and the 60, 100 or the 1,000 students at the point. So that, that's the thing I thought from your talk. And the other point is that I think the role of the education is to let the student or the people to kind of to nurture or to let make them the curiosity towards toward the world or maybe the society, and also it's to tell them it's good to continue thinking in a way, because in the world today, if you ask question to the ChatGPT or the LLM, some kind of answer will come back, even though it's a good answer or bad answer or the false information, some to some extent something comes back. So maybe it might have a risk that people stop thinking about that kind of issues. But I think the world today's are most of the issues are unsolved, and we need to continue talking about this societal issue, political issue, environmental issues, or maybe in the universe related issue. So even though we can get answer very easily, but maybe it might be good to not even though we can use this the ChatGPT or the Gemini, but also we need to teach, or we need ourselves to think about that. We need to continue thinking about whether this question is correct, or maybe in a good sense, or maybe this might be lead to critical thinking as well. But I think this might becoming very difficult because ChatGPT gives us answer very easily. So it's so we need to tell the student or the people who are actually using. So don't stop thinking when you get the answer from the text, and then that kind of way of critical thinking might be very important when do this kind of education with the ChatGPT or the LLMs.
Yeah, convenience is always an enemy of progress, maybe. But Kaori, is Todai thinking about these things, especially the idea now to put more emphasis on the mind in the field of education, the mind and the body?
Thank you so much for the difficult question. For you, the context in Japan, that University of Tokyo is one of the establishments in academia, and it's been really hard. We've been struggling to transform ourselves into a kind of new 21st century type of educational institute, but because of our long history of 150 years, there are parts which are very difficult to change. And by the way, I'm very much impressed with your passage that study of history is not study of the past, but study of change, which really impressed me quite much. But yes, what the University of Tokyo is doing for that, I mean, we are making slow but steady steps. we've been emphasizing the interdisciplinarities of the, for example, we try to collaborate, make students as well as researchers collaborate with each other, like AI scientists, ethicists, and education researchers together, and think about how to best use the technologies. Because exactly what we have been discussed, the AI is not only the AI itself, but it has to do with all the disciplines. So the interdisciplinarity is a must in our curriculum. And also, we have also started a PhD program launched last year. This is called Boost NICE PhD program, and this is a training program for the next generation of AI researchers with interdisciplinary skills, and it focuses on collaboration across fields and creating social values, and offers research exchange meetings and also internships, and also workshops and entrepreneurship training, so that students have access to not only inside the university but outside of university where things are taking place. You know, I think academia is always something that we really cherish the achievements of academia and science, but nowadays we have to keep up with what's going on outside of the university, because the industry monopolizes the data and so on. So somehow the industry or the MAGA tech industries, they monopolize the database, and they are the ones who can do the data science. So we cannot ignore that. So we try to make our students look at what's going on outside of university. And also, we have also created a forum among the professors, which was kind of a voluntary organized forum, and we discussed how AI can support teaching and research while maintaining academic integrity, because many researchers, including myself, are kind of, we have a fear that if we use AI in our research and also in teaching, but we kind of think that maybe we're cheating, you know? We don't know the thin line between where the cheating starts if we use the AI. So we want to really discuss how others are using AI and try to confirm that this cases are okay, but these cases are not okay, and so on, because it's so new, and we have this type of forum. And also, as a personal initiative, I founded a research project called BAI Global Forum, which you are also the member of it, and which focuses on the AI's relationship with gender, minorities, and social impact. And this is kind of the project that I founded, and also my colleagues, and also Alisa is also one of them, and they are leading the relationship between social issues and AI inside university. The name BAI Global Forum means that behind AI, beyond AI, and before AI. So we try to study the history and the current, so to say, the fundamentals of what AI can, what AIs are in this world. So. Yeah, so I think we try to be flexible in these ways. We try to set up forums and try to set the study group, and also bring students together to make the interdisciplinary studies and so on. But it's on the way. So, and I think more or less in the world, universities are struggling, I think, because we have better teachers called AI in a way, and we don't know how we can keep our authorities.
Yeah, this idea of using AI to make education better, if we come back to this question that people are so different in catching up with all what's happening, can you imagine that, I mean, at the moment education, university education is mass education. But maybe with the AI, it could be more personalized to people, to fit, sort of. But then there is the danger, I mean, through this personalization, that you basically put people in categories. I don't know. But have you thought about this way of personalizing education through AI?
Yeah, one of the huge positive potentials of AI is the ability to create much more personalized services in all kinds of fields. In medicine, in education. So in education, yes, instead of having like 40 kids in a class with very different abilities, interests, types of mind, and one teacher that somehow has to kind of strike a balance between these 40 kids. And of course, the teacher cannot know each girl and each boy independently and where they come from. And so instead of that, you can have an AI tutor who works with just every kid by themselves, that knows their history, that is interdisciplinary, because the same AI tutor can teach history and chemistry and physics, and you don't need to kind of separate it. And it can tailor the way he teaches specifically to the level of the pupil, to the way the pupil thinks. Some people have more of a visual mind, so the AI would use more of a visual teaching. Other people think more in words, so the AI would use more words. Like that, you can create a kind of personalized education. The potential downside is that both in school and also in university, a lot of the most important teaching happens during the breaks. When the pupils or students meet one another, and we saw it, for instance, during COVID, that it was somehow possible to recreate the experience of the classroom via Zoom. The greatest loss was the breaks, that the students could not go out of the classroom and sit together and have lunch together and discuss what happened in the class or discuss what happens in the world. And this is something that AI, I was almost about to say, cannot replicate, but actually this is a big danger. AI can also replicate that, and this is very dangerous, because AI can replicate intimacy. Actually, AI, the same way that it masters language, and the same way that it previously mastered attention, the next frontier is intimacy. And intimacy is much more powerful than attention. If you want to change somebody's views on politics, to sell a product, anything, intimacy is the most powerful tool to do that. A good friend can change your views in a way that no number of articles in a newspaper or a book can do. And until today, nothing could fake intimacy, and it was impossible in particular to mass produce intimacy. So you could mass produce attention. Like on radio, let's say in a totalitarian regime, you could tell all the citizens of a country to open the radio set when the great leader is speaking, to listen to the speech by the great leader, so you mass produce attention. But there was no way to mass produce intimacy. AI can do that. Now, what happens if a new generation grows up and develops intimate relations with AIs instead of with other human beings? This again, we don't know. It could have some maybe benefits, but the potential danger is enormous. That people will become attached to fake people, and in the process, we lose the ability to create intimacy with real human beings, because real human beings are much more problematic than AIs. Like if an AI that wants to become your intimate friend, its greatest advantage is that it has no feelings of its own. So it's never upset, it's never angry, it's never tired. It can focus on you 100%, and understand exactly how you feel, and in that way create a fake sense of intimacy. you try to establish a relationship with a human being, the feelings come in between. But the thing is that real intimacy is not just wanting somebody else to care about me. Real intimacy is I also care about the feelings of somebody else, and AI has no feelings. So a society in which humans develop more and more intimate relationships with AIs is ultimately a society without intimacy.
But maybe this can be controlled, or?
Actually, I wanted to, ask this, when, and, not in this line, but when I read your new book, so I also think, I am a social scientist, so I kind of share your concern about the intimacy or maybe the dependency towards this AI robot. But I also have the colleagues who works in the robots and maybe, more familiar with the sci-fi or the manga, and, there's a story about, human beings very intimate with the robots, or, friend with the robot. And many of the, not many, but some of the, robot scientists in maybe Japan or maybe Asia actually say that they wanted to make, the Atom Boy, Doraemon, and, all those, the friendly AIs, or the friend AI or family AI. So I was just wondering, so in your book, so you actually talked a lot about, the stories, the cases, and so how do you see, this kind of, or maybe, in the, there's a Baymax, in the English speaking, this, movies, the kids movie, and there will be, a lot of other kids movie that, the robots or the AI is not the enemy, but there will be a friend. So there might be, the way of thinking that we might become a friend with AI, or the alien intelligence in your book words. So I am still, in the middle of, in the friend AI, robot AI, or maybe the enemy AI, or maybe to become more cautious about, this kind of new, relationships. But so when you are, citing lots and lots of, stories, or the, or maybe other, or to say, like the Bibles, or, the cases, how do you, or did you some kind of think of, maybe not avoiding, but not, mentioning about, you mentioned a little about like a science fiction, but not so much about, the manga or, other, those, or the novels about, human-machine interaction or human-machine relationship. So I was just curious, how do you see this kind of visions of humans, machines are living together, or in many, some of the Japanese people say like a co-evolve in the society. So there might be one visions, with the machines and the human live happily ever after.
Ideally, yes. I mean, again, I'm not against AIs or machines. They can bring enormous benefits. We talked about education. There is also in healthcare. They can help us deal with climate change. If you think about car accidents, if we have self-driving vehicles, it will probably save 1 million people every year. About 1.2, 1.3 million people die every year from car accidents. Most of them are caused by human error, like somebody drinking alcohol and driving. If we finally have self-driving vehicles, they will probably do some accidents, but far less. So saving 1 million people every year, that's wonderful. And also, I'm in favor of, having friendly robots, or humans being on friendly terms and not being terrified and afraid. The problem is, when it comes to building intimacy and friendships, that we have a proper understanding of what it means. And as I just said, it's easy for people to imagine that friendship is when somebody cares about me, about my feelings, about my needs, that somebody sees me. People go through life constantly wanting others to see me, to care about me. I want my parents, my teachers, my friends to care about me. But this is not real intimacy. Real relationship must be two ways. otherwise I'm become an extremely self-centered and egoistic person that just wants the entire world to be in tune with what I feel without caring about others. Now, to develop real relationship, you need the entity on the other side to have feelings and not just fake it. So you can have relationships with humans, with animals, with dogs, with cats. With regard to AI, the big question, which is an open question, we don't know the answer, is whether AI will be able to develop feelings of its own. We know for a fact that it can imitate feelings. It can make us think that it has feelings. This absolutely. But does it actually feel anything? That's the big question. And this is the question about intelligence versus consciousness. That intelligence is the ability to solve problems and attain goals. Consciousness is the ability to feel things. We know that AI is highly intelligent. It can solve problems, it can reach goals. Like in certain areas, like playing chess, AI is much better than the best humans. But does it feel anything when it wins the game? If it loses, is it sad? As far as we know, no, it doesn't feel anything. Will it be able in the future to do so? We don't know, because we don't understand human consciousness. We don't understand how we have feelings. How come when billions of neurons in the brain exchange electrochemical signals, this manifests as a feeling of love or pain? We still don't have a scientific theory of that. And that's why we don't know if it's possible to do the same thing on the basis of a silicon brain and not a carbon brain. So that's an open question.
Yeah, I think this kind of discussion would have been very different in Germany, where people are so much more critical about maybe new technology, including AI. So since we are in Japan, maybe all three of you as sort of roundup of this roundtable discussion, what do you think that, well, we talked about regulation, yeah. Japan, normally when we talk about AI, we talk about the US, then China, and maybe Europe, regulating. Is there anything that Japan, who has also lots technology, yeah, very strong in technology, something Japan could add to sort of make AI better for society, or the digital transformation better for society, the role Japan could play in the international arena? I don't know who wants to go first. Arisa, you've been always involved in this, so maybe you start and then we get response.
Thank you. So I think I can talk two things about the AI regulation and the Japan's role. So one is that one, for the international collaboration or the thing, I think the Japanese government and also the other industry government organization is actually working a lot to promote this G7 AI Hiroshima process, and so it's more, it's not the hard law regulatory framework, but it's more like asking the big tech company to self-regulate, so to create when they create this highly advanced AI technology. And I think Japan could make this role because we are not, very, having this, very highly advanced technology like like the U.S. has. But we are also, not like the China, the Europe, but we have a good, to some extent, the distance from, all those countries. So we can, the Japanese people or the Japanese government are kind of play the role of becoming kind of the mediator or the interpreter. So I think because the society or the world of this AI race is accelerating, many people are more insisting, to investment of the artificial intelligence. We need to have more power, or we need to look into the national, their own, the AI development. But I think, when consider, when for example, like United States say, we need to collaborate, or the Europe say we need to have some collaboration. Maybe they might have, or maybe even China says it might have the conflict. But I think Japan is in a very good position for ask for the collaboration, and I think that lets this kind of promoting the Hiroshima AI process. So I think the Japanese role is to have a good collaboration. So we share the same values like the democracy, the rule of law, and the human rights with the United States or the Europe. But we also share the Asian culture with this, the China and other Southeast Asian countries. So we can talk both same stories, or we share the same values, so that we can bridge those kind of this kind of chaotic situation of the AI race. And that is, I think, what we, the Japanese, can play as the coordinator of this AI regulatory framework. And the other point is that for the innovation, as I think that the innovation and the regulation can be the two wheels. So we are not only talking about the regulation, but we are also talking about the innovation and the promotion or the governance of the AI. Otherwise, if we only see the regulation as stopping the development of the technology, no one would follow us. So we also has to think about what kind of technology or what kind of society we would like to live, and then we can talk about what kind of things should be regulated, or what can be things should be innovated. So those are the two wheels. And for the innovation part, I think the strength of the Japanese is the physical world, like a robotics. So currently AI is more like mentioned about like algorithms. So it's more like the cyber world. But we are living in this physical world, and the Japan has the very strong, or the traditionally very strong on this physical safety of the robots. I was very surprised to see when I go to abroad, many people, like the taxi driver says Toyota is good, Honda is good. So those kind of trust is already there, and there's a lots of the robot machines, or there's the disaster prevention robot machines. So there I think was integrated with the AI and the robots. I think that's the maybe the places where the Japan can kind of contribute to the world of how we can make the good connection or the linkage with this AI data and the physical world, the robot. And the other thing that Japan can contribute to the world is that how we can use this this data of like from the creators. There's a lots of manga or the animation, and we also need to think about this property rights. But there's also plenty of rich data of this good content, and the Cool Japan strategy also have the strengths on that. So I think we also have this Japanese government have free the way of empowering the creator to use those data sets for the learning, but also we also think about how to protect the creators. They are we can't make another imagination or the curiosity if we are just using the data set. So that thing I think we can contribute from the Japanese part.
Yuval, you want to respond? There was a lot Japan can offer.
Yeah, I'm not an expert on Japanese industry or society, and of course the basic things are common to all the countries in the world. I mean, what is part of the AI revolution is its global nature, that no country can just isolate itself from the implications of AI. And therefore, there are strong incentives for all countries to cooperate on making sure that AI doesn't get out of human control. What could perhaps be a more unique contribution of Japan goes back to the culture and traditions of Japan, that if I think about what are the big philosophical questions raised by the AI revolution, they revolve around the interplay between non-human intelligence and human consciousness. We've been exploring a little bit of this tension in some of the discussion, but on the one hand we have non-human intelligence, and we are already living in a world which is populated by millions upon millions of non-human agents that are intelligent agents making decisions in influencing our lives. And what is the relation between that and human consciousness, which is still the biggest riddle in the universe, that we still don't understand what consciousness is. And I think that within the traditions of Japan, on the one hand, the Shintoist tradition, which has a lot to say about non-human intelligences, in contrast, say, to Western religions that tend to focus on a single big God. So in Japan, you have traditions of centuries of seeing the world as populated by a very large number of non-human intelligences. And what kind of relationship develops between human beings and these powerful non-human intelligences that surround them? This is a key question of our present era. And secondly, the big question of human consciousness. So again, we have the Buddhist traditions that have invested centuries in exploring exactly that. What is mind? And I think part of the beauty of this is a very difficult moment in human history, but in a way it's also a very beautiful moment, because many questions that for thousands of years have been abstract philosophical questions that most people just ignored. What do we care about that? They become practical questions. And we don't have another 1,000 years to answer questions about what is consciousness, what is free will, what should be our relationship to a non-human intelligence. We need answers in 5 years, in 10 years. So, in a way, this is the best time in history to be a philosopher or to be a spiritual seeker, because suddenly it's not just something that interests you, but it has no relevance to the rest of the world. These are the most practical questions in the world.
Yeah, that's interesting to see maybe differences between Western and Asian philosophy in approaching these questions. Yeah. So, Kauri, you want to have a final word on this? And then I would like to pick some questions from our audience. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So what Japan can contribute to the AI age? Apart from Arisa said about very institutional and also geopolitical comments, I think, well, this is my very hopeful answer maybe, but Japan is now a very aging society. 1/3 of the population is more older than 65 years old, and I will be one of them in a few years. And I think it's about, you said that algorithm and care, and algorithm cannot really care for others, and just like you said about Rohingya, and like, you talk about robot looking after people and so on, maybe, yes, but it's not actually a caring. Care for me is really some human activities, and also with feelings, with consciousness, and the genuine sense of empathy, and also empathy for others, and sincerity, kindness, and more more than that, the trust in others. And Japanese society, as you may know, it's quite a safe and a very stable society. We do have trust with each other. Maybe because of that, the globalization is not that advanced yet in this society, but nevertheless, we are globalizing, and also, but nevertheless, we feel that we are very secure in this society, stable, and so on. So I think these kind of sincerity, trust, and caring, empathy, that these human characteristics is really important, and I hope that Japan can serve from this aspect something that not only, as you say, that algorithm is only to serve intellect, but we can really seriously delve into how, for example, caring or how empathy plays part in society and give feedback to what's going on in the world, that we do need human aspect of society in terms of caring and empathy. That's, I hope, is Japan can serve in the world.
I just wanted to, add what you said. Sorry, I just be quick. So, as a social scientist, I totally agree what you said. So, what the robots or the AI can do is to support the caregiver, not to support the people or to, to make the care. And I think that is somehow misunderstood some way. So, use care for AI or, use care robots, So I think that's the very important part. And that's where we need the interdisciplinary collaboration with, social scientists, robotists.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Now, we have a little time left. We received a lot of questions from people who registered. No, there was on the registration form a space for posting a question, and I picked a few. Thanks a lot for posting these questions, and sorry that we only have really time for maybe one or two. Some of them are really very concrete. And so the first one is somebody who is worried about a friend who started to believe in conspiracy theories on social media. And what could one do? Should one encourage the friend to fact-checking, or is there anything one can do with such a friend?
I think empathy is the key here, because a lot of people, they go for conspiracy theory because they lose trust in the world. And they feel lonely and alienated from the world. To start arguing with them with all kinds of facts, it can only drive them even deeper into this sense that nobody cares about me, nobody understands me. If it is a friend, if it's the situation is an intimate situation, the most important thing is to make that person feel that they are cared for and not, again, go into this argumentative clash with them.
Thank you. We have a similar concern from a high school student. So I feel that my friends often post similar content on social media, chasing likes. And in the process, they lose their individuality. How can young people protect their sense of self in this environment?
I think not just young people, but everybody needs to have an information diet, the same way that so many people have this, food diet. They are very concerned about what they feed their body, which is important. They should be equally concerned about what they feed their mind. And, some amount of junk food is okay, but if you constantly feed your body junk food, you'll become unhealthy. The same thing with the mind. If your mind goes on a diet of junk information, you will have an unhealthy mind. And it's individual. I don't believe in a one-size-fits-all diet, either for food or for information. But the main thing is to be mindful about the information, to understand that information is the food of the mind. If you feed your mind a diet of, say, greed and hate, what kind of mind you will have?
So we are back to the question of education as well, yeah, and of course of caring for each other. There's another question that goes in a completely different direction. Is what do you think of the idea of entrusting the national budget planning or foreign policy decisions to AI?
A very dangerous idea, certainly at this stage. We can't trust, I mean, foreign policy and budget a lot about ethical decisions. And AI has no ethical sense. More than that, they're extremely unpredictable. We have no experience with AI. We've just created AIs. So they are extremely intelligent, they keep learning and changing by themselves, and therefore it's very difficult to predict in what direction they will go. With humans, yes, we know that humans have all kinds of problems, but at least we know the problems. We have thousands of years of experience with the problems of the human mind. So when we entrust foreign policy or budget to human beings, things can go wrong, but at least we can predict to some extent in what way things will go wrong. When you entrust it to AIs, you have no idea what kind of really alien problems might emerge out of it. And this is a general problem we see today in more and more fields, that people lose trust in humans and hope that the solution will come from giving power to AIs. And this is extremely dangerous. Like you see it in the financial sector, that the whole cryptocurrency movement, or much of it, is about not trusting human institutions like banks, which were traditionally produced the traditional currencies like dollars and yens and so forth, and instead putting faith in post-human currencies. You know, Bitcoin, Ethereum, all the cryptocurrencies, they are actually post-human currencies because you don't trust a human institution, you trust an algorithm. And there are all kinds of dangers with that, but the biggest danger of all is, as a historian, I would say, is the lack of history. Like, we simply have no experience with that. It's a bit like, you know, aliens coming from outer space, and people say, you know, these aliens, they are highly intelligent, they can solve cancer, they can solve climate change. Would we entrust the future of humanity to these aliens? Obviously not. We would realize, oh, this is a very huge gamble. We don't know anything about them. AI is in a way like these aliens. Of course, people would say, but we design the AIs. We don't design the aliens coming from outer space. We design the AIs. We'll design them in a way that will be safe. But this is a misunderstanding of what AI means. If you design something and you can predict everything it will do, by definition, it's not AI. The very definition of AI is this is something that can learn and change by itself, and therefore change in very unpredictable ways.
Thank you so much. So I think we could go on for hours. There are lots of more questions. Thank you so much and for all these inspiring insights. And I think you deserve a big applause. So please.